According to House rules, Tom had to submit the finding of fact amendment on a Friday before the debate and vote the following Monday. As expected, our amendment provoked a strong reaction. I'm really nervous. Didn't sleep much at all last night. I just kept thinking about this. We put a lot of work into this. It's all coming down to one big event, and I have no idea what's going to happen. Also, we've had a 2.5 week delay because Tom broke his hip. He steps to the Capitol and slipped on some ice, and that was 2 days before he was going to go down to the floor to give a speech and have this bill voted on.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I was excited today.
Could be a good thing.
Yeah, and so?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I love your enthusiasm. So we've been concerned all along that we were going to get discovered, but here we are today. We've made it, and we're here, and we're ready to go. So we'll see what happens.
A representative from the Speaker's office and a representative from the majority floor Speaker, they came and they asked me, they said, there's a big stir. People are upset about the amendment. And you're not going to call that, are you, today? And I said, well, I've got to at least discuss it. And then finally, the majority floor leader himself came over and spoke to me. He said, well, they would appreciate it if I didn't call for a vote on it.
Despite this resistance, we had one thing in our favor. Tom had personally sat down and walked almost 80 of the 100 members through my dad's book. No legislature anywhere has as much awareness of these ideas as in the Kentucky House.
House Resolution 77, a resolution commending Kentucky State University for its efforts promoting public health and designating February as Kentucky State University Heart Healthy Month. Representative Reiner.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, 41.
In 2012, I worked with Dr. Campbell's son, Nelson, on drafting House Bill 550 to improve the health of an at-risk Kentucky community. After lobbyists pressured members to kill the project, those resources were diverted to help a rural community in North Carolina. Over several months, Nelson Campbell conducted 10-day jump starts, putting people on a plant-based diet. Those with total cholesterol of 175 or higher experienced an average of 20% drop. Many participants had the option of getting off medications for type 2 diabetes as well as cholesterol-lowering medication. God only knows how many lives could have been saved had these truths about improving the health of our people not been suppressed for nearly a half a century. Suppression of truth to please lobbyists for billion-dollar corporations is a device used by dictators, not by virtuous American leaders. Today is our opportunity to lead by recognizing the most basic truths about good nutrition. This short amendment reads, numerous scientific studies now confirm that a whole foods diet comprised primarily of vegetables, fruits, grains, legumes, and nuts, without added oil, sugar, and salt, is optimal for human health, not only preventing a broad range of diseases and illnesses, but also reversing some of the most dangerous chronic conditions. This finding is of the highest importance to the Commonwealth because it communicates a truth that has the power to save lives. Mr. Speaker, I move adoption and call for a roll call vote on House Floor Amendment number 1.
Motion made and motion second for adoption of House Floor Amendment number 1 to House Resolution 77. Is there discussion? The chair recognizes the gentleman from Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and certainly the gentleman from Jefferson is bringing us something he is very concerned about, and we all want to be healthier. But, Mr. Speaker, I do have a concern with the amendment because in looking at the amendment, it looks like the absence of perhaps meat as part of your diet seems to be taking us in a direction that is possibly not the best direction for all Kentuckians. So I would have to, in great respect for my friend from Jefferson, but I would have to ask us to oppose this amendment.
Questions on adoption of House Floor Amendment number 1. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson 35.
I'd like to speak on the amendment, Mr. Speaker. To respond to the gentleman from Harrison, I think if you read the amendment carefully, the word primarily is there. Diet based primarily on some of these plants. And I don't think that contradicts anything that, that the medical community is advising these days.
Questions on adoption of House Floor Amendment number 1 to House Resolution 77. Is there further discussion? Chair recognizes the gentleman from Allen 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would rise in complete respect for the gentleman's and the emphasis on placing more plant product into our body and less animal product. But I would remind the body that America has, over the long term, had a protein-rich diet that has allowed us to be progressive in so many ways. And as we've taken American culture around the world, one of the things that we've done is certainly added protein to folks' diet through meat. And I realize that that brings certain other issues with it. And I'm sure that the gentleman from Jefferson could explain those to us pretty clearly. The China study is a really interesting piece, and I think there's a lot to be learned from it. But I think we need to be really cautious when we push our diet all in one direction. So we need to think about that as we consider this amendment. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Harrison.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. And though the gentleman from Jefferson might consider perhaps withdrawing this amendment and taking another look at it and insert for perhaps putting meat or meat products in that definition, if he'd like to do that, then certainly we'd have something we could work with. But that's just a suggestion today, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Nelson 50 to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In reading the amendment carefully, I don't know how anyone can disagree with it. It simply states that numerous studies have found that. And there's really no disagreeing with that. Having experienced a plant-based diet for about a 6-month period, I think everything that the gentleman, the sponsor, has said is true. But the amendment itself is flat out true. You can't dispute it. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Questions on adoption of House Floor Amendment number 1 to House Resolution 77. Is there further discussion? 2 or more members calling for a roll call. Roll call vote will be had. Those in favor of the adoption of House Floor Amendment number 1 will signify by voting yea. Those opposed, nay. Roll call machines open for your voting. If all members voted, any member wishing to change or explain his or her vote, if all members voted, clerk will take the roll. Roll call machine showing 34 members voting yea, 44 members voting nay. House Floor Amendment number 1 is defeated.